Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back. Out here, I'm not sure what I'm going to work on all today. I think it's probably going to be kind of going through things, regrouping, checking a lot of things. I think I'll maybe start by dry fitting the steering box on here and see if that works and everything. I got these linkages rods for in here, so I'll maybe clean up these bores and dry fit them, and maybe dry fit some of the other linkages and see if everything works properly. So I can move forward with that. I never did show you the little push button oilers did come, so once I get these final cleaned up, I could install one of them in the top of each pin. I'll probably measure up and figure out a list of bolts that need to be made so I can get them to Dad so he can start making some heavy-headed hex bolts where necessary, because there's some that I'm missing, these bolts, and I gotta kind of go through and see what I'm missing. I think I'm missing these steering box bolts because they all have those heavy heads on them. So I ordered up some hex stock from McMaster Car, and make some on the lathe with the rounded domed heads so they match everything else instead of just putting modern hardware in there. Yeah, so I'll probably check back in a little while, show you what I got done. Steering box is loosely on there. We have a slight issue, nothing we can't fix, but there is some interference between the steering box casting and this casting here, where the touching in there before where it mounts is tight. So I'll have to do some investigating here to see if, I'm assuming this is right, and we probably just got to do a little bit of grinding to allow them to fit together better, because everything else seems to be lining up right. The holes themselves lined up good for the mounting into there. The gear seems to be lining up pretty good as far as up and down. It's maybe just a fuzz lower than the horseshoe gear, but that's, I don't even know exactly where that is supposed to be anyway, so that should be all right. And as far as how they are meshing with each other, well, the box is loose, but it seems to be pretty right. So I think I'll take it back off and study the casting here a little bit, see how much material there is there as far as relieving that. Maybe I'll give Norm a call and pick his brain before I do anything. I don't want to mess anything up. I got the steering box fit up to dry fit it. I ended up doing like I thought I would have to, and had to take a little bit of material off the steering box. There's a better shot of it, to clear this casting. If you could probably tell in the video or not, but there is a little bit of clearance there now, so that's all that matters. So that's good. The gears seem to mesh up pretty good. There's only about maybe an eighth of a turn of play in everything, which is, I'd say, pretty acceptable. I don't think you're going to get much tighter than that, because you got to have a little bit of play in the in the gear here, because this is also, you know, there's a little bit of play because all the pivot points, so you can't have that a perfect fit. So yeah, that's looking good. I cleaned out these bores for these pins, and I've been working on fitting all the linkage and keys and everything together. So I'm ready to try putting them in the tractor now and see how everything comes together, and see how these linkages fit with the pin on the new steering box. That'll be one of the next things, to put that all back in the tractor here. I put our new spring that we made on, and that seems to be like, that'll probably be about perfect, because that arm goes in there like that. So yeah, things are coming good. We're at the point of the restoration now, though, where there's just 1,000 little piddly things that need to be done. You know, all these little nuts and bolts and linkages and pins and washers, and just like, it feels like we're just moving at a snail's pace. I went through my box of parts. So that's another indication we have a lot of stuff to do yet. This box will be essentially empty when this tractor is done. So there's a ton of little things that need to be done yet. But I was going through and kind of checking a few things, like the mag bracket here. You know, I was making sure that fit on this block and everything, and it does. So we got to make some bolts for that. And I was dry fitting manifolds, making sure that all works, and it does. And dry fitting oil sumps, and I was looking at the steering shaft. I finally got that out of the barn to see how this bell fits against the new end of the steering box here, and that seems to fit really well. So we should be good there. There's just a lot of little trying to check everything before you have to go back and fix something later because you didn't check something. A lot of thinking everything through, so to speak. So yeah, let's see if I can get these put in the tractor now. Geez, riding the struggle bus here a little bit. I thought this would be a little bit easier. I guess I should have known better. When we took this apart, we have the same issues. You got to put all these linkages and pins together in the right order, or you can't do it. So there's keys in the shaft, right, for the arms. So basically this pin has to be in the housing, and the arm has to go on, because you know, you can't how should I say this? You can't put the arm in place and then slide the shaft down in, because there's no way to get the key in then that way, because it's a half moon key. So you got to start with the shaft. Well, you can't in this particular situation, you can't put the shaft in and then slide the arm up, because it also has to fork over this shaft. So what you ended up having to do is put the arm in place and put the key in the shaft, and then slide the whole shaft up from the bottom into place, with the key sliding into place. Okay, got that all figured out. Not that big of a deal once I figured out the order of things. Well, you can't do the same thing on this side, because on this side, if I would have done it before I put the differential casting onto the main housing, it would have been fine. But on this side, there's not enough clearance for this shaft to go all the way out through the bottom, or all the way up from the bottom all the way up. The shaft will hit, it's tape here to protect it so I wouldn't scratch up the paint. The shaft will hit this housing before it will go either all the way down or start, whichever way you want to look at it. So you can't do the same thing that we did on that side. So on this side, you got to put the, let's see how to do that. I put the shaft in, put the arm in place, drop the shaft down through the arm, put the key in, and then bring the shaft back up with lining the keyway. So I mean, it's a little bit of a struggle. It sounds simple now, and it is, I guess, but once you got to figure out that order of things to make it all work. So it fits though. That's the most important thing. And then I got the, come over here to show you a little bit better. I got that spring in there, and that's going to work out just great. Looks like it's perfect size and shape and everything. So now I could finally move on to the top side here, but it's well past supper time, so I don't know if I'm going to do much more here or if I'll work a little bit late tonight. We'll see. There, I got all the linkages together on this part of the tractor, so I feel like I accomplished something here tonight now. Worked really well. Like I said, once you get everything in the right order, the right combination, the pin on the new steering box worked out really well. The fit on these old linkages is like perfect. I mean, they're not sloppy. The length was perfect. The diameter of it was perfect as far as up and down, side to side. There's just a little tiny bit of clearance play. So that's really nice. Everything is just, loosely put in here. And the pin that goes in there we'll have to remake because we had to booger them up and sacrifice them to get everything apart originally. The other side, your clutch side there, the linkage all works nice and free. There again, that pin is missing there, but it's nice. I'm happy. One more thing, kind of done. Probably see you guys tomorrow. Okay, welcome back. Did anybody catch my mistake there last night? I got home and got to thinking about it and looking at what I had done on my pictures and whatever. I got these linkages together wrong. I got to flip-flop these two in for out because otherwise you're going to have the clutch should be on the left side of the tractor here, and right now I got the linkage for the shifting on the left, so that going down the tube, the two would have to cross for it to be right. So I gotta flip-flop these two. I'll check back in a second and show you what I mean. Okay, so this is an interesting turn of events. So I just flipped these two, like I said I was going to do, but it doesn't work that way. At least, so these linkages I haven't taken apart yet. These pins, they've all been together since I took them off the tractor. Not to say that that's right, but that's how they were. So flipping them around, they don't clear each other. There, I can show you there. The pins interfere with each other because these brackets are actually slightly offset. So when they're the other way, the arms are towards the outside. When they're this way, the arms are towards the center and they hit each other. So I could take these apart and flip these arms around, but I don't know if that's right or wrong now. I'm doubting myself how this should go together. As of right now, in my mind, it would make more sense to have these control arm linkages go down parallel to the end of the tube instead of crossing midway. I can't imagine they would do that. That doesn't seem right to me. So I think what I'll do is I'll take these pins apart and flip that one around and that one around and see what that looks like. Maybe go with that. I'm confident everything else is right. This one has to be on this side, the tall arm on the top, and that goes on that side. These I'm pretty darn confident is right too, because this one bumps up and this one bumps down to go through the hole here. I've seen some tractors where that's actually wrong, where they've had them upside down, and it interferes with the casting here. So it really should be flipped the other way. So I'm pretty confident that that is right. But we just got to work on this end of the linkages. Short of putting the clutch on the right side, there's at least one guy out there that has that. But I'm gonna put it on the left like it should be, because it even says right in the manual that the clutch is on the left and the shifting is on the right. So, oh, look at this flipped around. Oh, I don't even know where I left off now. I've been playing with these stupid linkages for over 2 hours now. I think I've tried about every combination twice, trying to figure out what the best ideal situation is here. And it's still, I think what it comes down to is I kind of think that this arm, come on, focus, this arm here needs to be bent farther this way towards the steering box. Because it interferes with the clutch. If it's in neutral here, it's fine. It clears just fine. But if you put it in reverse, it's fine, it clears. But if you put it in forward, that's forward gear, the linkages are less than ideal. They kind of rub and interfere with each other there. I think it would work, but I don't particularly like that because something could get bound like that, so they're stuck together. And especially when you're dealing with clutches and shifting, you don't want safety issues like that. So what I think the solution is, like I said, that arm, I think it just needs to be farther that way. And that would solve pretty much all the problems. But like I said, there's so many combinations of ways this can go together. There's certain constraints, certain things have to be. Like we know this arm has to be there, that arm has to be there. These linkages have to be the way they are. You know, the bottom one is kinked up, the top one is kinked down. At least I'm pretty confident it has to be that way. That's the way it was, and that's the way. It can't kink down on the bottom or it would interfere, so it just makes sense that that's the way it is. Even so, that wouldn't help clearance issues here. So these arms, there's a lot of different combinations that they can be in, because you got a short and a long on each rocker arm, and they are offset to one side. So logic says they have to be offset to the outside either way, so you have the maximum amount of clearance in between the linkages. And as far as longs and shorts, the short has to be on the outside here for clearance issues to the casting here. And the short has to be to this linkage, the bottom linkage, which is your clutch linkage. Otherwise, you run into issues with these two rods. So I think this is the only real combination that works well. You can flip-flop and put this clutch linkage with the short arm on that side and this shifting linkage with the no, you see, you can't do that. I tried that and I thought that was the solution, but yeah, that's right, because then you came into issues with the long arm in the casting here. So I think this is the only good combination that actually works. And it makes sense because then the clutch is on the left of the side of the tractor, which would mean that the two rods that go down inside the tube, which I've laid out here on the floor, wouldn't have to crisscross in the tube, which they could, I think. Now that I studied it a little bit more, I don't think that would be a deal breaker. And then this one linkage, I don't know if it's supposed to be on the left side here or not, but the one linkage does have a bend in it. Not to say, I don't know if that's a right original or not, or if it's just been bent. But if they did need to be crisscrossed, say, that bend might be part of that. So yeah, like I said, I've been looking at this and playing with this and moving linkages around for too many hours now. I'm going to walk away and call it a night. I'm going to go home and make supper anyway. So if it is this way up there, it would kind of make sense because the one was adjusted a lot longer than the other. There again, that's assuming this is right, which I don't really know if it is. It's just the way the tractor came. But that would make sense a little bit when things are in, let's see if I can get it back in neutral. It doesn't shift. I think hopefully we'll see what, the sidebar here, we'll see when we actually get the levers hooked up if the leverage makes it shifting easier. Otherwise I might have to go in and adjust that shifting detent ball inside the differential, if you remember that. Or actually it was in was that in the transmission or differential? I can't even remember now where that was. I think it was in the differential here. Yeah, it was in the differential. Anyway, there's that ball in there, the detent for your different shifting rails, shifting detents on the rail. I might have to back that off a little bit if the shifting is too hard. But as far as these arms, going back to that, these are cast. I'm not sure if these are cast iron or cast steel. I'm going to have to look at that in the parts book tonight. If they're steel, maybe we could heat them up and try bending it. If they're cast iron, well, that's out of the question. But I'm assuming they should all be just straight from original. But that brings up a good point. Lawrence and I were talking here tonight. Being as that the steering box was gone when I got the tractor, we can speculate that it might have gotten broken and taken off to get fixed and it never happened. Well, in the process of it getting broken, did these linkages get, twisted and bent in the process where that could be part of the issue? Possibly. Say the steering box got ripped off the tractor or something, they crashed it into something or whatever, these could have very easily gotten tweaked somewhere and bent or twisted or not the shape they should be, is what I'm trying to get at, I guess. So, let me know what you guys think, especially you guys that have these 612s, I know I've been laughing here all evening. Dave Harrington, he warned me before I took the tractor apart. He said, make sure you look at all those linkages and make note of how they go, because it's a pain to put them all back together. And I did. If you go way back to that, it was like video 6 or something, when we were just getting started. I went through and documented how everything was. But it's difficult because I don't know if the way it was even what it should be, correct and original, because the steering box was gone and these are all just floating in space. So who knows if it was even right to begin with. But point of the story was he emphasized, make sure you know how it goes together, because it's and I can see now there's a lot of combinations of how this could go back together, and I'm still not 100% confident that I have it right here, but let me know what you think. All right. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. It's free. Why wouldn't you? Hopefully see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.